Welcome to Clever Orbits. We're doing a special edition this time, a video conference call, where we are discussing Star Trek Voyager's series finale called Endgame. And, you know, really, guys, for me watching this episode and reviewing it and, like, stopping it occasionally and taking notes, it felt like taking a closer look at a painting by Jackson Pollock, or dare I say, the Mona Lisa. This is one of my all-time top 10 favorite episodes of Star Trek, generally speaking. And, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So, of course, I had a hugely positive view of this episode. Endgame comes from, of course, Endgame is the final stage in a chess game after most of the pieces had been removed from the board, and the final stage of an extended process or course of events. So starting right there, it's a good title, Endgame. It's a fun title. It's a fun word. And then I'll go through the cold open, and then we can start talking. The cold open, where you get Janeway in her apartment, I thought that was great. It was subtle. There's this sense of history having been accomplished. Janeway with gray hair was interesting. There's this mystery of what happened pervading her way of being around the TV. Like, you'd think, hey, Voyager got home. Why are you not excited to watch the celebration on the TV? And then also her being alone. Why is she still alone? I guess that's just how she is. And then finally, her coffee cup, the dent in her coffee cup. Like, there's all this subtlety to that first, like, couple minutes, or that first minute. I think it's actually less than a minute. And those fireworks also looked good for all of the 15 seconds that we saw them. Of course, everybody watching Voyager has been waiting 7 years, and you see 15 seconds of fireworks from an alternate.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of I mean, it's interesting that the very first shot is a TV show, and it turns out that the next shot is in the future from that. And then it turns out that whole thing is in the future from where we actually are in the series. There's a lot of temporal shifting in those first few scenes, and the TV sort of sets you up for that. It's a good way to, like, immediately set up two things, that this is going to be a passage of time.
Yeah, there's a subtlety to that. I really like that. That's really impressive. I didn't pick up on that.
It was pretty well written. There's a lot of clever stuff in the episode. It's clearly put a lot of effort into this.
And then one of the things, I'm just going to say really briefly, we can do a whole separate video on this. The Voyager opening sequence is the best. Honestly, you get a ship flying through space in high quality CGI. Voyager itself is sleek, sexy, elegant, and beautiful. It pierces the stars and explores this wide range of really cool places. It's not a bunch of frickin' blueprints, and it doesn't have a shitty theme song made to impress, like, the younger generation. So it's better than Enterprise, it's better than Discovery. It literally shows you more than DS9. DS9 is its own good. It's better than Voyager, the Next Gen, and better than the original series because of the CGI and the color and the music. Okay, we can argue about the music, which was the best of all the opening sequences. But
I mean, the best things about these Voyager and Deep Space Nine openings is just how relaxing they are. Like, I can't imagine.
Richard, you're kind of freezing up. Tyler, is he freezing up? Tyler?
He most certainly is.
I was saying the intro, the best things about the intros to Deep Space Nine and Voyager is just how relaxing they are. I can't imagine skipping them. It just made me feel completely calm and relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I usually skip the DS9 intro because I've seen it so many times and I want to get to the next plot point. But yeah, DS9, that music is really relaxing. The Next Gen music is really relaxing. Well, in a different way, in a, like, let's go sort of way. And then the high-pitched craziness of the original series, like, that's a totally different vibe. It's like, like playful.
Different time.
What's that?
Very different tone.
Yeah. So anyway, so we went through all of that. The experience of my first watch of this episode was really awesome and intense and satisfying. I mean, it was the culmination of my first 7 years watching a Star Trek show consistently, and I was not disappointed. I was really engaged. And coming back to it, I've just found more stuff to love. And what I regretted was that I don't have the DVDs such that I could watch whatever commentaries were produced for this episode. I really wanted that. I really wanted to find out what that building was in the very first scene with the title card Endgame. With the different colored lights. I thought that was kind of stupid. Like, each floor had these different colored lights. It was like, why is that? Why would anyone do that ever, even in the future? Yeah, I felt like this. I've seen it so many times, and I love it still. It's well paced. It's well written. It's based in characters. It's got a great sense of heart for the family. It's fun. It's beautiful. Decent music. Solid themes. It makes generous references to all good things, while being definitely its own story, and it's my favorite finale. Well, okay, it's right there with where What You Leave Behind. Like, it's neck and neck with the end of Deep Space Nine. And you know what's funny also, the uniforms and the comm badges are also used in All Good Things, Timeless, The Visitor on Deep Space Nine, and here. So I'm pretty sure in the 25th century, these are the uniforms that Starfleet is going to use. There's just so many future alternate timelines where this seems to be the one that they use. Or maybe there's like a branch of all alternate future timelines. All the ones that don't happen, they use this, maybe. I also think I finally noticed the new comm badges. So these two little pieces of gold with the Delta shield that's silver in front of it. I thought it was a great representation for two different, and they're mismatched. They're not identical pieces of gold. So it's a great symbol of different lifestyles, ways of being, peoples, united in common cause, namely the exploration, growth, discovery that you see with the Delta Shield, which is what it's always represented. So it took me the whole first hour to figure out what meaning the comm badges had.
Are there only two people, though?
What's that?
Are there only two groups of people, though?
It's a metaphor. It's about the inclusion of diversity in the Federation, not just two people. Or two groups. But Tyler, we haven't heard from you. We've seen a lot of funny faces. What do you think so far? What do you like or dislike?
I like that it ended. The show and the episode. I think it ended before it could get off the rails. Not a lot can be said in the way of most shows these days that start. They never end. This show ended, and it ended beautifully. I had so many bones to pick with a lot of simple things in the episode, but I'm not going to mention them here. I will say that I did like just how measured Janeway's actions are later on in her old age before she goes back in time, exactly what she wants to do. Yeah, you know what, I'm going to save the crew. This future sucks, I want to change it. I know exactly how to do that. Thankfully, I've got all these weapons and this newfound armor that we've developed to combat the Borg and their technology. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to use this and help them get to where they need to go. They're going to encounter this transwarp hub. Hooray. So none of the makeup is believable. Sorry, I can't not bring that point up. None of the makeup. It's terrible. But I love the episode in this show. They don't look old. They look like they have prosthetics just lazily and
Paris's head
disfiguratively grafted onto their face. Oh, Paris's head. Ugh. And then pretty much everything that they put on Garrett Wang.
The Doctor's old age makeup looked great. I think it was the best. It totally showed off his age.
You know what? I'll agree with that. I'll concede them that point. They spent a lot of time making sure he looked pitch perfect. just the best old age character out of all of them.
And I mean, Harry. So here's the thing: we've drawn a lot of attention to Harry throughout this series, and I think he's finally got his moment of vengeance and triumph. He's now a captain of the shittiest and smallest science vessel that Starfleet produces, the Nova class.
I think he fell into that. I don't think he earned it. I think he stumbled right into a command of his own later on in life, accidentally. Maybe
Captain was from the Mirror Universe and was.
Oh God!
Well, Harry Kim seems to have changed a lot. Like the older version of Harry Kim in this show, he seems really adult and really responsible. I wish that Voyager had been about him transforming into this slowly. Then this is the end point, but we just see a sudden transition.
I noticed he is a very different person in the Ultimate Future universe, and it's very clear that all of his maturation happened between the last episode that we've seen and the future. Like, all of it.
It was too much for me. It was way too much of an arc that was skipped over. I absolutely agree. I would have watched his character arc evolve from where he was 33 years before that.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, like, what actually happened? Maybe somebody who he cared about, like, maybe he fell in love and that person died because he was being unprofessional or something. And I mean, you can even see he's still being like a stupid jackass when he's playing the game with Icheb and Tuvok. He's just like he's trying to be cheeky, and nobody cares. Like, nobody likes it. And then he goes up to Tom Paris, and Tom is just like, "What's up, man?" So, like, at the same time, they still have this picture of him being kind of the butt of every joke, and they don't really confront that. Like, that maturation may never happen for him now because of how Janeway changed the timeline.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an interesting point. You see this really great community of Voyager people in the future. They talk about how they're a family, and I thought that was really cool because it's really realistic when people go through something like they're really like a family. But now, in the new future Janeway created, maybe they're not going to be as bonded. Maybe they're going to get home and they're going to be like, all right, see you later.
In some of the notes for the production leading up to this episode, they talked about how one of the ideas was to have Garrett Wang, to have Ensign Kim's character have an affair with Janeway. Like, that will never happen.
Sure, let's figure out how we're going to get there. Does it just happen? Oh man, no.
I also like when you talk about family, right, which was the biggest theme in this whole episode, of course, and really beautifully done, I felt like. I liked, personally, Janeway's silver hair. I've said this, I'll say it again. Her way of being with Harry in the very first scene, and then later on when she, like, kind of takes his face and then gives him a hug, like that.
Yeah.
She's maternal. She has owned her role as basically a mother to this crew, and I really appreciated that evolved and grew. And she's the only captain in Starfleet that time travel would occur as a solution, like as something that she could do just for the sake of her own crew. Like for Sisko, he was concerned. For Kirk, for Picard, I think they were more concerned. Archer, definitely. Archer doesn't. I mean, whatever. So that's something to confront. Is she basically breaks the temporal prime directive? And even her younger self. You look at it. The older self is just like, all right, we're gonna do this. The younger self is like, no, don't tell me anything until a certain point when she's like, actually, the hell with it. Tell me everything. And it's just like, okay.
I mean, the temporal prime directive is kind of it's without consequences that affect you as a viewer. Like, you're not going to see people suffering as a result of any violation of this. So it's a pure plot device, it seems like. Maybe the real temporal prime directive should be that writers should avoid time travel plots. Maybe that's the purpose of the temporal project.
No, so the one
Bit too meta.
notable exception where people really felt the weight of the issue of changing timelines was in Children of Time on Deep Space Nine, where there's a whole colony established on the planet, and you know the DS9 crew is confronted with, hey, if we go back in time, all these people that we see around us, we're basically killing them. And then I loved how that episode ended, but it's actually the episode that I'm going to show my philosophy students when we talk about time travel and stuff, because it is the most confronting directly. And we might watch the Children of the City on the Edge of Forever too, because that's kind of more heartstrings. But I like how the writers pulled out all the stops when it came to dignifying the continuity and the 7 years of history of the show. Tom and B'Elanna and their relationship was portrayed really well. His evolution, we'll talk about that in a second. The Doctor's quest for a name, which, by the way, Joe, it took you 33 years to come up with Joe. I felt like that was silly. I think we may have lost Richard. I think we may have lost Tyler. Oh no, Tyler's back. Then there's the thread of holographic rights, right? You get this a little bit late in season 7 with Flesh and Blood, and also with Author, where the Doctor is fighting for, I'm a unique being and I'm sentient and I deserve rights like everybody else. And so when he says to Tom Paris, I thought we were beyond those sorts of distinctions, there's a whole civil rights movement that has happened for holograms that has been successful in the past 20 years. So I think that was really cool. Let's see. I like that Janeway just has this like casual ability to influence who gets accepted under the Klingon High Council. I mean, isn't that cool? She's just like, oh yeah, I'll get Karath onto the High Council.
Did she wield that? Did she have any of that during the course of the series? They were nowhere near the Alpha Quadrant.
No, it's interesting because it's something that she clearly had to develop. Janeway has this whole history as a politician, as an admiral, that we see just a tiny smidgen of in Star Trek Nemesis when she's ordering Picard around. Like, she definitely follows that trajectory in the real timeline, but in the alternate timeline, she must have, I mean, Voyager came back, what, 6 years before we see this episode in the alternate future timeline? I think that's enough time for her to have involved herself in like Klingon politics. She may have like had lots of lunches with Picard.
Oh, I would have watched that series.
Lunch. Picard and Janeway having lunch.
Picard and Janeway and Delta Flyers getting lunch.
Yeah, Picard and Janeway having lunch.
That would be great. But
so yeah, we were just talking about how cool it is that Janeway has this like casual influence over or this casual relationship to her ability to influence the Klingon High Council. Like, oh yeah, I'll just get Karath a seat on the High Council. You know, it's the thing that I do. It's help with the internal affairs of Klingon politics. When it was so complicated on Next Gen, remember? So complicated.
She probably figured out from experience from all that time in the Delta Quadrant, it was after negotiating with the Borg of all races, she figured that Klingons would be a walk in the park.
I guess. I mean,
You could say she adapted.
Speaking of the Borg, I thought it was really cool. And man, what I wouldn't give to take that class. The Borg hierarchy.
As taught by Barclay.
Yeah. And then the new cadet uniforms are pretty cool. I like the new Lacar's color scheme. There's like a bit more red. I'm also so proud of Barclay. You know, when you first meet Barclay, he's socially awkward, he's anxious, he stutters, he's like scared and hiding out in holodecks. Now, in the alternate future, he's teaching classes. That takes something. So, I mean, maybe he won't teach classes because Voyager came home too soon. But he's doing pretty well by the end of the Voyager series. So what happens when Voyager actually gets home? That was a question I was left with. Like, they didn't address that at all. They really should have taken more time to address that. However, they do in the Voyager relaunch novels, and they do it decently. I don't think it's the best, but anyway. Yeah, what else? The mystery of what Janeway is after and why is so simple and yet so effective. To those, I mean, I can't remember what it was like to be watching this for the first time, but I know that if I were, that whole thing where you don't know what's going on with her, you don't know what she's up to, like that's great suspense. And
yeah, it was a good mystery.
Go ahead.
This episode since it premiered, and so I forgot a lot of the plot points, and so I got a good mystery effect out of that.
Same here.
I especially like the part where she puts her hand on the Chakotay's plaque. There's a Chakotay plaque. That was interesting. It's not a tombstone; it's a plaque. Okay, because we use plaques in the future, I guess. Let's see. To the journey. I liked that theme. I liked how it was repeated. I liked how you see that, at the very beginning with their toast, and then later on, it's just a great to the journey and then family. The episode is on one level just really simple, and it's really well done for that, I think. And then poor Tuvok, man. I guess he's using pen and paper because he's just insane. Because why would you use pen and paper? The tragic comic nature of his moment of lucidity, and then his return to being insane, and then her kiss on his forehead to show her love for an old friend. I thought that was just so heart-wrenching and smooth and well done.
Yeah, there must be a deep to be a Vulcan demented. They value their minds and logic so much, and to be trapped in a mind that is gone, to be a Vulcan, it must be the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
They're driven even further into insanity. The funny part about his illness is that it's retconned into being cured. In the real timeline, he's no longer in danger. He receives the cure in time.
Right. In the Voyager relaunch novels, it's right after they get home, they meet up with somebody. Somebody comes on board Voyager, and they have the mind meld. Anyway, what was funniest about this scene to me actually was imagining that this is basically Richard's future. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. And he was so upset by that he left.
Oh.
I don't think he was. So
he took it hard. Same here. Anyway, go.
It was cool to see Tom and B'Elanna's daughter all grown up. She's actually a really gorgeous actress. And then, I liked the idea of a family photo with all the crews of the ships.
Right. They used the cast photo.
Yeah. I mean,
which was cool, but
I really
want me too.
One photo that's got the cast for all 5 of the series. Maybe not Discovery. I'm not as close to them yet, but I feel like these people are my family. So, yeah.
Yeah, they feel that way to me too.
I thought the scenes with Seven and Chakotay, that's okay. That's pretty cool. I liked how she grabbed him for the first kiss, and then between their first and the second kiss, it was such a Seven moment. It was quintessential 7 of 9. She's legitimately saying, "Well, he asks jokes. What about the second kiss?" She says, "Well, I'll have to check the database," and then he just kisses her. I thought that was awesome. That's perfect.
I feel like she would have already researched what to do with the second kiss. She puts a lot of thought into it. The third and fourth and fifth. She used to be a Borg.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Maybe. I
That
like
was just to have a nice tender moment, which okay. But go ahead.
I like how Vaughn Armstrong is basically like Jeffrey Combs. He plays everyone.
Yeah, I recognized his forehead and eyes. I was like,
I
hi.
recognize that forehead anywhere.
Yeah, that facial structure with those teeth, unmistakable. So he plays a pretty good part, I think.
I thought that nebula was beautiful. The nebula that Voyager goes into, gorgeous. The colors and all of it.
Yeah. I love the planetoid or whatever. I'm not sure what kind of celestial body it is that the transwarp hub seems to be in orbit around or stationed just outside of the atmosphere of or whatever. It was really cool. Reminded me of when which episode where Geordi actually becomes a separate life form. He sort of morphs, transfigures into
Oh, with
an
the
alien. I can't remember. He looked whatever. The colors were similar, and it looked like he basically turned that alien into a planet, and then you have the planet, and the transwarp hub is there. I thought that was a cool visual. Also, that brings me to a point about the transwarp hubs themselves. There are 6 of them. Why haven't the Borg assimilated the galaxy and other galaxies?
exactly. If they can travel so far and so wide so easily, they must have higher priorities. They must have something else that they're paying attention to and trying to accomplish. Um, like maybe, and we know that they were already engaged with species 8472. So like maybe humanity is not that high on their list of priorities, and we know about extracorporeal life forms. So maybe, like we were talking about, it was during Unimatrix Zero, how the Borg, they have maybe some measure of consciousness in higher or other dimensions or realities, and that is kind of their highest priority is to work on those. And they just have kind of a leg of their massive collective is in this universe doing things.
So humanity is just you're a footnote. We're trying to assimilate beings on higher planes of existence, and these other hubs are going to these separate dimensions and realities to try to do so. And we've only cracked the surface. All right, I can
I think
accept that. One hub devoted to species 8472 makes sense to me too. Just one.
Yeah, the other thing is if they assimilate more complex, more powerful life forms first, the assimilation of the smaller scale, lesser life forms will be easier and quicker. It'll be more efficient. So let's just say like you have 1,000 species 8472 that you send on a Borg cube to planet Earth, and then you beam those 8472 down. Like it's going to go a lot different and be a lot quicker. You can have a firefight with 8472 and shoot them a lot and have nothing happen. As we know from that episode where the 8472 invaded Voyager, right? It took a lot to take that thing down. So,
Oh my God! If they had to interject about Discovery, if they had assimilated the mycelial network, that would have.
yeah, that's interesting. It's really
Hmm.
interesting. Is that something they could do? I think so. They probably, luckily, they just don't know about it. They must not. I mean, we know that the writers invented it for Discovery. So it's, the Borg writers from every series previous just didn't know about it. But my explanation is that they didn't, they didn't know about it either. They must not have.
It's classified. We deleted all the files. It's now in a paper folder in a bin somewhere deep below a bunker that's labeled Section 31.
Welcome back, Richard.
Hey, bud.
So I love that, Janeway has such dignity and presence that she can be literally shorter than Harry Kim and have more of a presence than he does. In that scene where they're in the back of the shuttle, she kind of looks up at him. Like she looks up at him with the same level of intensity that you would expect a drill sergeant to look down at a private. You know, it's just like, it's cool. And then also her quote, when Karath calls her, and she says, "I'd love to stay in chat, but I'm on a tight schedule." Like, I just thought the way that played out, she's just like, I was so happy.
It's a good put down.
"33 years of diplomacy."
Right? Then there's when the Borg Queen first visits Seven. I thought this was good. "You're my favorite, Seven. I know how much you care for the Voyager crew, so I've left them alone." We've got our explanation just now that the Borg don't rank humanity very high. So despite, Richard, we were just talking about this, despite them having a transwarp network that they could just send a cube or 12 cubes to Earth like that, they must be engaged in pursuit of higher dimensional life forms first, because the assimilation of those would make it easier and quicker to assimilate all of us. So we're actually a lower on the totem pole. They're just like, we're superior to the human Federation. We can take them, but we're choosing not to right now. In the same way, we've got our explanation for why the one ship Voyager hasn't been like surrounded on all sides by 36 Borg cubes in the Borg territory. It's because Seven is the Queen's favorite, quote unquote, whatever that means. The Queen could just be lying at that point, right? In order to cause compliance from Seven. But she says, "I know how much you care for the Voyager crew, so I've left you alone." Which that could all be a lie, but we don't really see the Borg lie. So I think she's actually telling the truth. That's why Voyager hasn't actually been assimilated, despite all the annoying things that Voyager has caused for the Borg. This is something that you're going to love, Richard. So even after they have armor on the ship, even the armor has a dramatic shield percentage. I mean, like, it just becomes a different form of shield. And then it's dramatic. It
Tension is decreasing numbers 0.0.
Go ahead.
The best way to build dramatic tension is shout out numbers decreasing to 0.
Yeah, like a running clock or something. I'm curious what you guys thought about. I mean, okay, so the transphasic torpedoes thing. That's cool. It's interesting. I mean, eventually it had to happen. It's kind of the height of Borg fatigue when you have a weapon that's so powerful. They can't even do that to Klingons. Fire one shot and the whole ship explodes. I mean, I guess it's 30 years in the future, so that makes sense.
It seems like for the Borg, 30 years shouldn't be long.
Poor Richard. He just got really distorted. We couldn't hear you. Your connection's been crap this whole time.
Seems like for the Borg, 30 years shouldn't be that long.
Oh, 25 years wouldn't be that long. Yeah, I mean, yeah. People. Dead air. So, Central Nexus was a cool idea. That there's a specific location for the Queen, a special location. I mean, I feel like she's a redundant protocol and she can be instantiated wherever she needs to be. Like she was instantiated in the Borg cube that was at Sector 001 in First Contact. She was instantiated in Dark Frontier. And then she was instantiated again in Unimatrix Zero. And then she was actually just kind of hanging out for Endgame. So like the idea of her needing a special place is interesting. And what does she do there? Curious.
Well, Janeway talks about the Borg Queen in her course as if the Borg Queen is actually controlling the actions of everyone. And we also see the Borg Queen is watching stuff on a TV. So I think she actually is like the point of control and not just a protocol. At least that's what the writers are seeing it as at this point.
Yeah, I think that's also true. I think in being the collective consciousness of itself, she is also naturally expressing control over that. She's the decision-making process of the collective,
Yeah.
made explicit, made specific. I like, well, I think that it's really cool that they finally make use of that virus they were threatening that baby with in season 6.
Yeah.
The neurolytic pathogen that eats him. And then they use it in exactly the same way. They infect Admiral Janeway to send her as kind of a time bomb. And then she gets assimilated. And I thought, I thought the whole solution, this interesting combination of future technology, chess mastering on the part of the Admiral, and a strategy that they've already learned and used, which is being tractored inside of a sphere, except this time they blow it up from the inside. Like I thought that was all great. I really enjoyed it.
It was a little bit, they had a lot of moral hand-wringing about whether it was the right thing to do or not, and they were talking about saving millions of lives, and they never seemed to consider that they're committing genocide against many Borg. That just didn't come up at all. All the stuff from iBorg didn't come up.
It just came from the Delta Quadrant. I think they've stopped caring about that.
they just gave up. I think Janeway had probably Admiral Janeway, I think, had probably come to the determination that, based on her knowledge of the Borg, that it wasn't going to kill off the Borg as a species. This is the conversation I imagine happening behind the scenes. Like, okay, this virus you think you've got that will commit genocide, it's actually not going to work. They're going to adapt fairly quickly. But we could do a lot of damage and distract them and get our people home. And it'll cripple them for a while, and it'll help us out. Which is why we didn't have any of the conversation that you have in Collective about using the virus. I mean, which is funny, you're right, Richard, because they have that conversation about using it on 5 drones. Like, it's not genocide. That's like, we're going to kill a couple people in order to save our guys. And now, like,
I didn't like that idea.
They destroy the central nexus, it looks like. Or, no, so what I thought the Borg Queen was actually doing at that point, I'm pretty sure it was the quarantine kind of protocol, the same quarantine protocol that has to rip off her arm and that has them not go back for the drones in Collective. They're like, hey, this whole central plexus is infected. We just have to blow it up, which is why it blows up, so that it won't infect the rest of the Borg.
Right.
And yeah, she talks about there's one sphere that can still hear my thoughts. Like, I think the Queen protocol has to get instantiated again somewhere else. Like there's literally something to her being an embodied being. Disembodiment is valuable, but like there's more, I don't know, facility, skill. There's something else that it becomes possible when she's embodied.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's an intriguing idea.
You want to know what I'm worried about? And I'm not sure if this is explored in any official canon, but I think the Borg, didn't they assimilate the armor technology? Didn't they get a hold of what the schematics for transphasic torpedoes were when that shuttle ended up right next to the Borg Queen's front door? And like you said, they just destroyed the central plexus. It's gone. They needed to contain the pathogen. But wasn't the information maybe transmitted to other parts of the Collective that were unaffected? Or did that information end up somehow tangled with the pathogen in some sort of digital framework that I don't understand?
There's 2 possibilities. One, the Borg had the armor technology, etc. It's distributed to another part of the Collective, and they're still using all of their resources and attention to assimilate higher dimensional beings. Richard, one of the things we discussed...
Still the argument, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things we discussed while you were gone was they clearly are after species 8472. They believe it to be, or they at one point were. Species 8472, the apex of biological evolution, they consider it to be, and like... 7 makes this casual reference to omnicordial life forms from Galactic Cluster 3 or something. Like, I think they're after higher level species, and there's an order of importance, and humans are way down there. So somewhere in the next like 50 to 100 years, after they've assimilated all these high-powered, terrifying beings that can really mess us up like nothing, like Lovecraftian demons. They then can come back, and everything else will be easier. So, yeah. And one wonders, on that note, why they haven't tried to assimilate the Bowsers. Like, I mean, it seems
that's a good crossover. I want to read that novel.
That would be a great Star Trek movie.
Both of them are into order, but they mean different things. They mean different things by order.
Yeah, they do. They do. I liked how I noticed this and it fits with the Queen being the collective consciousness of itself. I rewatched the scene from the First Contact. She says, "I bring order to chaos." So it's necessary that she exists in order that the wacky combination of protocols and voices and all that happens. And then, when Janeway says, "I bring chaos to order," I thought that was cute. I was like, just enough.
That was good. Good.
Oh no, Tyler, is it coming off as badly for you as?
Yes.
Oh. Well, yeah, we know that Richard's connection is terrible. Sorry, man. Occasionally, Richard will say something, and it'll be like, or it'll just skip like a whole sentence that you speak, and we'll get
every time I say that, I'm saying most profound things.
Oh, actually, okay, great. Let's see. The last thing that I've got, well, two things. I like the idea of a Borg doorstep, or a Borg doormat. I just think it's hilarious. Like you walk up to a Borg, you ring the Borg doorbell, you look down at the doormat, the Borg.
Hey, you're already assimilated. Come on in.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah, the Borg doormat would assimilate people on contact. It's their whole thing.
There was another thing. This is kind of the best part of the episode, I think. If the only arc that this show had was Tom Paris moving from basically con man flyboy to responsible and loving father and husband, that would be enough. I mean, the scene where he chooses, he's like, B'Elanna's like, you got to go be, Voyager needs the best pilot at the helm. And he's like, I've got my responsibility, I'll go do it. And then he kisses her, and then he puts his hand with his ring on her belly. I still get like a little bit of chills talking about it because it was just like, oh, that's so sweet. He's so different. He has evolved. He's a much better character than he was, kind of this playboy in the first two seasons. So anyway, that's my last thought before we go to reviews or final numberings, except for the rest of you guys' notes. I'm sure, Richard, you got more.
Let's see if my connection's good enough to get this out. I was really intrigued by the part where Paris and B'Elanna are talking about how they don't actually want to get home. They'd rather stay on Voyager and
yeah, it's like what's Tom says, "I am home, Harry."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very interesting perspective on all of it. To the journey, right? We're all together here. We don't need to get anywhere. It's great. It is an interesting perspective. Do you have any more about that, or you just sort of notice it?
It sort of feels like there's almost a sort of fear of success dynamic there. You know, when they're on the ship, they're with their friends. They've got a clear journey. They've got clear goals. When they get home, it's just a Wild West. What's going to come next? I can see why that causes anxiety to them.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
What's that?
Them being in this confined space all together as a family, forming smaller relationships, more like getting closer to people. There's going to be an impersonal, sort of honor-bound, duty-based existence that they're going to be thrown right back into once they reach the Federation and once they get back to Earth.
Yeah,
And B'Elanna's like, I plan to raise my child aboard Voyager here.
there's a humanization and an interpersonal dynamic of this community that is more heartfelt than even Starfleet would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good. And then there's also the other aspect of like.
So it's really interesting to see.
Well, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, it's really interesting to see like how they react when they see Earth in the view screen at the very end. They just sort of react with shock. They don't look especially.
Yeah, they're just confused.
They look like.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite fitting. It's just, I mean, this is when their entire universe is sort of pulled out from under their feet. Everything they've been working for is accomplished. It's done. What happens now?
Which was the writer's issue as well. They couldn't answer that for themselves. So that's why this happened at the very last shot of the very last episode.
Exactly.
I think it's the other interesting aspect to that is how to the journey, they keep cheering to the journey. It's the set they've kind of accepted and embraced what they talk about in Thelema. There's this principle of like, there's this quote, "Is there not joy even in the aimless winging?" And pure will, unassuaged of purpose, is delivered from the lust of results. It's every way perfect. Like pure will is when you're doing something and you're not questioning it, you're satisfied because you're involved in the activity. You're doing the activity because it is itself fun. And like nominally, they're trying to get home through the journey, but they've come so much, at least some of them, to enjoy the journey itself that they don't need to get home anymore. So I mean, that's actually an upgrade in human nature generally. If you're able to pursue something without being attached to succeeding, you're going to be more effective and you're going to enjoy it more. And so they've attained that level, or some of them, with the journey itself. And there's another couple things that I completely forgot from earlier. I like how when they're first going into the nebula, they're on the bridge, and Janeway's like, "Tom," when they see the Borg cube, and they literally duck. So cute. Like, if you guys have to duck, it's not going to make any difference because the ship will be crushed. I mean,
maybe it'll miss my head.
Actually,
ship will be gone, but
in the Infinity's Prism, in the Christopher Bennett story, where it's like an alternate future history of Voyager, where they get defeated by 472, one of the first things that happens to Voyager is the bridge is destroyed and Tuvok's like impaled. So I thought that'd be
fun.
And finally, this is my very last thought. I hope there's a quantum reality where the Doctor and Seven are together. I feel like they would have been great together.
The way he propositioned her was pretty creepy, though.
That would have been unethical, I think. I don't know.
Oh, you mean surgery time a date? It's a date.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Richard? His propositioning.
The doctor says, like, if you would like any assistance exploring your, intimacy, then I'd be glad to provide services.
No, he was not saying that at all. He was legitimately.
That's context.
I always heard that when he said that as him actually just trying to help her. I never saw it as like,
oh, get some.
I mean, his
hologram is perverted.
But he gets married.
Yeah, to someone who looks a little bit like Seven of Nine. Maybe.
So I think
shrug.
We could talk a little bit here about comparing finales, opening sequences, and music. We've done the opening sequence a little bit. Top 3 of the theme songs and top 3 finales. I think this is definitely pretty high up in terms of finales. I guess it's equivalent to All Good Things. Yeah, I'd say that. Actually, when I asked for the top 3 finales, it's funny because the 3 finales that did the best are for me tied. So the top 3 are really one at the same level. Next Gen and Voyager and DS9. And then we haven't seen the finale of Discovery. TOS didn't have one. The animated series didn't. What else is there? Yeah.
Enterprise.
We don't talk about that because it's so bad.
Oh.
Yeah, what do you guys think in your ranking of opening sequences or finales?
This probably fits your bill, right, Richard? Ship flying through space.
Yeah, I just want a ship flying through space. with calming music.
Good music.
Yeah.
I give this a 9 out of 10. Maybe a 9.5. I mean, but then I'm usually towards the high end of the scale. I think I'm biased. I realized this in the shower this week, actually. Psychology talks about this mere exposure effect, where the more times you're exposed to a stimulus, the better you evaluate it. That is a system error for me. It's a systematic bias because I've seen every episode of Star Trek at least 2 to 3 times. So, like, of course I like it. It's part of my neural network that I think is cool. So anyway, what do you guys think of this one?
9 out of 10. And as far as the rankings of finales go, I'd say All Good Things, DS9 in this tied, and then The Unspeakable.
The Unspeakable. Yeah.
I give it an end out of 10. And I like All Good Things, and I think this one beats DS9's. No, they're all tied. I can't decide.
Yeah,
They're all great.
I like those. Those are great.
Theme song Voyager's good.
Yeah, it's Voyager or DS9 that I'm kind of tied for. I think those are the best. Enterprise is also the unspeakable bottom level.
Song makes me angry. Sorry, guys. Just a little.
Except for the theme music for In a Mirror Darkly.
I thought it was kind of generic. It was refreshing.
It was better than Enterprise theme music generally, that's for sure.
Oh my God, it was an oasis of sound from all the horror that's been plaguing every ear. The entirety of the series besides those 2 episodes.
There are YouTube videos where they edit the opening credits for Enterprise with Archer's theme. And it's so much better. Like, I mean, because Archer's theme was actually good.
Yeah, the music in the show, while it sounded a little like, Lewis and I talked about this a lot, and Lewis mentioned it first, that it sounded a lot like Voyager. Like, it was similar composers. The composer did the same music, I think. But yeah, no, it was far and away much, much, much better than the theme song. In fact, I wish they'd use that.
That's the thing about the cast, the crew of these shows. It was basically the same people from season 1 of Next Gen to season 4 of Enterprise. Like, these people had a job working there for 20 years. And then those poor people, because they just lost their jobs. Anyway.
Yeah, that was sad.
So here's what I want to do going forward. I am pooped just about with Borg fatigue. Like, I don't really want to talk about the Borg too much more, but we've got one more episode that we've never done before, Regeneration on Enterprise.
Oh.
Let's do that one, and then we'll switch to talking about topics.
Can we wait until a series where they assimilate those omnicordial life forms Seven mentioned? Or maybe God himself. God. What is God? Anyway.
How about that Rick and Morty episode, Unity? I think it has a very good take on the Borg.
Here's what we'll do. Let's do a combo.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty, Q-Who, and Regeneration. Let's.
Wait.
Quite a bit.
And we can finish out the Borg that way.
And let's skip Q2 because all that shows up are 3 cubes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Pressure.
Q2.
All right.
So
Agreed.
Q regeneration, the Rick and Morty episode. Sounds good, guys. Well, this has been fun. I kind of really enjoyed this format, and I think we'll find out how good it came out soon. Thank you all for being here, and I can actually do this because we're on video now. Live long and prosper. Bitches!
Like, subscribe, and comment.
Like, subscribe, and comment on these videos because we really, really appreciate you, and we want
Please. Yeah. We love you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, that's too close. All right, I got it.
Good night.